Hi there, welcome to Still Learning, the space where we celebrate growth in all its messy, beautiful, and raw forms. I'm your host, Fortune Fowle, and if you're here, it means you're right where you need to be because here we're embracing the beauty of being works in progress. You probably heard the phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But let's be real, that couldn't be further from the truth. Some of the deepest wounds don't just come from actions, but from words that linger long after they're spoken, which is why in today's episode, we're going to be talking about why we need to be cautious, not careless, with our words. We'll talk about the impact of what we say, the responsibility we carry, and why what we speak over ourselves matters just as much as what we speak to others. Because at the end of the day, words shape us. Rise and shine. Happy Still Morning Monday. We're back here again for another episode, another conversation. I'm so happy to have you here so that we can continue to learn and grow together. How was your last week? I hope it was well. If you guys could not tell, I'm in quite a good mood this morning. And why might that be? Because guys, I almost had a recording scare. I was having some malfunctions with my mic earlier this week when I was trying to record this episode and I started getting scared. I'm not gonna hold you. I was doing all the Google searches, doing all the back engineering to try to fix it. I was really scared that my mic is no longer functioning with me, but that is not the case because here I am with you guys this morning with some nice crisp audio, and I'm just so excited that I can get into this episode. God is good. And actually this is an episode topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and I feel like coming off of last week's episode where I feel like I spoke a lot about the impact of our words and just how powerful our words are, I thought what better way than to have an episode following up that really allows us to unpack that our words has the power of life, and that's what does that mean, what does that look like, and why we have to be so attentive to that. I definitely know for myself as I grow older, I further understand the importance of really being cautious with my words, not being so careless with them, not being so loose-lipped, but really understanding that words really do linger and have a long-lasting impact. And I can say this for myself, there are words that people have spoken to me that I have carried with me into my adulthood. And so really having to kind of unlearn those words that have become ingrained within me is so interesting because it's not the actions. I can't even remember the action behind those words, but I remember the words. And so really wanted to kind of talk about that with you guys today because I'm further just learning that words really do shape you. They really do impact you and how you live your life, and also can impact how others live their lives. And so we do carry a responsibility here in what we say to people and what we say to ourselves. Oftentimes we are more likely to underestimate the power of our words than our actions, I find, and we are oftentimes more quick to take accountability for actions than our words, when in truth, our words can be just as impactful, if not more impactful. Words are not just these sounds, they're not just these syllables, they're not just these things that we use to put together sentences and paragraphs, but they carry weight, impact, and lasting power. What we speak shapes reality, not just for others, but for ourselves. Words affirm, they uplift, they heal, but they can also tear down, wound, and destroy. And honestly, guys, I think we see this constantly throughout our day-to-day life, how words can break relationships or mend relationships, how words can influence how people view one another and able to interact with one another. So words are definitely something that we can't overlook, and that oftentimes I find that we are guilty of just not really understanding the weight of words and why they're so powerful. I mean, think about poetry, music, speeches, think about policy, think about debates. These are all words that have the power to shape and change generations, to change policy, to do all these incredible things and really shape our reality and how we live our lives. So clearly words are important. So why aren't we leaning into the importance and the power that comes into our words more? Why aren't we trying to understand the power that they have? Words have the ability to set people free or hold them in bondage. It's so powerful what we have, and it all lies just in our tongue, which is crazy to think. This small little piece of our body, I'm pretty sure the tongue is like one of the smallest organs in our body. The tiniest thing has the greatest amount of power. I think about when I was growing up and when I was a child, whether it was my sisters, whether it was my parents, teachers, friends, just offhanded comments really stuck with you, right? Any comment that you're told as a child enough times, like you're stupid or you're not enough, enough, you really do internalize that. And those are words that lead to you having to struggle with self-esteem and self-worth well into your adulthood. I know that I struggled with that, having been bullied in my childhood. Those are words that I had to work through and work out because it really did impact how I view myself. And then we also have on the flip side how words of encouragement and belief can also help grow confidence and resilience within you. I know for me in my childhood, my parents, which I'm so grateful for, really instilled in me and my sisters this level of independence and capability within us, and that we truly are intelligent people, that my mother and my father always spoke into us that we would do better than they ever did, that we are meant to excel, that we are meant to do great things. And so I can say this for me and my sisters, that we have always been people who strive for the best, who have been overachievers, who genuinely believe that greatness is for us. And it's because of those words that my parents spoke into us, like they were speaking life into us. And that has really helped shape how we engage in life and in our careers, in our pursuits, in our passions, and our dreams. We're very determined people, we're very goal-oriented, and really don't seek to limit ourselves. So think back to words that were said to you in your childhood and think about how that has shaped how you live into your adulthood or whatever phase you are in your life. Because for every action, for every belief, for every way that we live our relationships and interact with people and the world, trust me when I say you can trace it back to a word that was spoken. I generally am someone who believes like science is just humans discovering what God has already made happen, what God's word has already spoken. And we know in the word it says the power of life and death lies in the tongue. There are so many studies that show negative words stimulate literal stress and anxiety centers in our brain, while positive words can build neutral pathways to hope and resilience. Dr. Andrew Newberg, a neuroscientist, found that just hearing or speaking a single negative word like no can actually increase cortisol, which is the stress hormone within your body, and shifts brain function toward fear and self-protection. Words shape neural pathways within your brain. Quite literally, speaking words of gratitude and affirmation actually rewires your brain towards peace, trust, and joy. So believe me when I say that your words matter and they are so powerful. They have the ability to shape minds. And that's really crazy to think. We just so often don't think about our words as much. We can get so caught up in what we're feeling or not really taking a moment to think before we speak. And it's really necessary that we do, because it's actually shown in these studies about our brains and how words impact us that our brains are actually wired for negativity. Psychologists call it negativity bias. And so we naturally remember and hold on to negative experiences more than positive ones. It's why you'll hear influencers, celebrities, people who are in the public eye say that there can be thousands of positive comments and compliments that they're receiving, but one negative comment that captures their attention out of all of it, right? So our brains are more naturally wired to hold on to negativity. So a harsh comment outweighs millions of compliments. And it shows that negative words tend to create stronger and long-lasting impressions than positive ones. And we give more power to those negative experiences, but what happens if we give more power to positive ones? How that can shape our minds and how we live, and how we can actively work against this negativity bias that our brains are wired to hold on to. I even found it interesting as when I was looking into the whole sciencey part of this, and how our brain registers social rejection or negative words in the same region as physical pain, which honestly makes sense, because I know when I experience great moments of distress or anxiety, I feel sick, genuinely sick. I'll have a stomach ache or my head would hurt. I genuinely have physical symptoms that manifest as a result of these negative words that I am not internalizing or have received or not being etched within my mind. And it's because our brains have to also physically process it, and it processes these words as pain. And so it further puts this emphasis for us us to be intentional about what we speak, because studies show that a way to combat this is through flooding our minds with words of encouragement, truth, and affirmations. Some people might knock on the you wake up every day and you tell yourself, you look in the mirror, you're beautiful, you're stunning, you're smart. But genuinely, even if you don't believe it the first 10 times you wake up every morning and say that, it is so important to speak that over you each and every single day, because in doing that, you actually are forming new pathways within your brain, within your mind, and eventually you will believe that and hold it to be true, and that will replace the negative words that were in your mind, which is why Joshua tells us to meditate on the word day and night, because continuously throughout life and as we walk in life, we are going to engage with words and honestly with lies that are going to try to intercept and take root within our mind to cause us to have low self-esteem, to cause us to not think highly of ourselves, to cause us depression and anxiety, when these are things that we're not meant to hold on to nor take root or space within our minds. So when we speak truth daily, immediately we are able to reject those lies. When you speak truth, when you remind yourself of truth daily, that you are worthy, that you are loved, that you are protected, that you are secured, it actually will replace and reject anything that seeks to oppose that very truth that you have spoken. And that is what you're going to believe in, not the negativity, not the lies, but you're going to hold steadfast in truth. So it's so important that you continue to do that and really ensure that you are intentionally speaking life over yourself and over others daily. And I'm kind of bouncing around here, but it's just because I feel like even myself right now in this moment, I'm just processing this with you guys and even reminding myself, like today, you need to be so intentional with your words. You need to be intentional when you speak to others and when you speak to yourself. Like, did you meditate on truth today? Because oftentimes we engage words so much, like whether you're watching a YouTube video, listening to music, like you are constantly engaging with words that are speaking something into you. And the thing is with that as well is that honestly, you can be engaging with it passively as well. Like sometimes you don't even seek out these words. People have things said to them on the street just as they're walking by strangers that they don't know, and they didn't do anything to incite certain words that are spoken to them, whether good or bad, but that is something that's being spoken into them. So in the ways that we can be intentional and active about what we speak and what we say to others, we should be. And I know we've all heard the saying growing up, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And honestly, guys, like that is literally one of the biggest lies we've ever been taught. Like, I don't know who came up with that saying. As someone who has broken a bone before, let me tell you something. Broken bones heal, but words, especially harsh ones, spoken at wrong times and moments of vulnerability, those stay with you for the next 10 years. Okay, it took me 6 weeks for my arms to heal. You just calling me a wicked person or you telling me I'm ugly, that's about to sit with me for the next 16 years. Okay, like way more longer lasting. So this whole idea that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, that is a lie, and honestly a lie we need to reject. And I wish it wasn't true that we are more likely to remember hurtful things than we are to remember kind things and really nurturing words that are spoken into us, because I know that whenever I get like a nice word of affirmation spoken over to me by my loved ones, I just feel so loved. I feel so seen. I feel so encouraged and inspired. Last night, I got to attend an event for African American nurses, and they were receiving awards of excellence, and just hearing them speak into us, we are worthy, that we are intelligent, don't let anyone stand in your way, that you are destined and creating to do excellent things, and that is how you should walk out in life, and you are capable of doing everything that you set your mind to. That I walked out of there feeling empowered. I walked out of there feeling inspired. Like I was just so blessed to have been in that room and received those words spoken into me. And so I really want us to start seeking to hold on to those words more than we do the harmful ones. And how we do this is by receiving that more, by speaking that more, speaking more words of encouragement. Because hurtful words stick deeper, we have to be intentional with the kind ones, and we have to actively counter the negative words with ones that are filled with truth. And not just what we say to others, but also what we say to ourselves. I definitely know that I can be really nitpicky with myself. Like, I'm a lot tougher critic on myself than I am with people, and it's something that I'm working on, because it's important what we say to ourselves. Like, how often do we catch ourselves saying that we're not enough, that we're unworthy, that, oh, I'm so dumb. Like, if faith comes by hearing, what are we allowing ourselves to hear, right? Speaking negatively about ourselves, it invites those words to take root in our hearts and in our minds. That's another thing. Words don't just affect your mind. They also impact your heart. What comes out of your mouth is actually what is already taking root and fills your heart. Don't just think of words as things that reshape minds and things that create neural pathways and affect how your brain functions and perceives things, but words also impact your heart and your ability to forgive, your ability to show empathy and compassion, your ability to either hold on to bitterness or let go of bitterness, your ability to navigate and release rage and choose peace. Words impact both vital functions in your body. One thing that you know in the medical field, if everything in your body is failing, the last things that will fail, the last things that your body will naturally stop giving blood and oxygen to is your heart and your brain. And the reason why is because your body perceives those to be the most vital organ. So before anything else, your body will stop perfusing your kidneys, your body will stop giving blood and oxygen to your liver. It will literally kill everything else. Your body will sacrifice your arms, your legs. It does not care, just to preserve your heart and your brain, because those are the most vital functions of your body. That's your body's natural response. And so if that's how your body is, and being so protective of your heart and your mind, these two organs that words have such an impact on, that have such a great weight of influence over them, shouldn't we too be just as protective over them when it comes to words that we hear and words that we speak to others? James 3:5-6, it warns us that the tongue is like a small spark that can set an entire forest on fire. As we saw happen in California, take away livelihoods and memories that people have built up. They can be so destructive. And that is why we're told in the word that our tongues are like a small spark. A small spark, just a spark. It's not even like it's a flame. It's a small spark that can set a whole forest on fire. We have to be intentional with our words, because when we're careless with our words, we cause destruction. But when we're intentional with our words, we can heal and uplift. So which fires are we deciding to start with our words? Ones that burn down or ones that light ways for people? You know, in Proverbs chapter, is it Proverbs or Proverbs? Which one do you guys say? I think I say Proverbs. Proverb. I feel it's like the same thing, tomato or tomato, potato or potato. Does anyone even say potato? What do you think? Anyway, Proverbs 12:18. The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. We have to be intentional about speaking life into ourselves and others. And ways we can do this is by being like, instead of saying I'm failing, say I'm learning. Okay, that's what this podcast is all about, guys. Not viewing the mistakes and the hardships you go through as points of failure in your faith, but learning points in your faith where you can grow and where you can become better from it. Instead of saying I'm alone, that God is with me. He will never leave you nor forsake you. You do not have to fear or be dismayed, because the Lord is with you. He's your fortress, your strong tower. Instead of saying I can't do this, with Christ all things are possible. You can actually do all things because you have the God of the impossible with you. So that is how we can be intentional about speaking lives into ourselves and others. Now that I have gone through with you guys, and now that we know that negative words naturally have more of a staying power within us, within our brain, that's negatively biased, we got to be intentional about countering them with truth, encouragement, and affirmation, which means encouragement, speaking truth, speaking life. This should be a daily practice, not just an occasional thing, not just every once in a while, not just when something negative is spoken over to you. This has to be a daily thing that we do. It made me think, okay, so is encouragement a discipline? And yeah, it is. Encouragement is a spiritual discipline. It's a way to actively fight against the deception and negativity that seeks not just to diminish our minds, but also harden our hearts. In Proverbs 16:24, we are told gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Encouragement just doesn't feel good. We're not just doing encouragement as a daily practice because it makes you feel good. No, it's because it has the power to actually heal. Words of kindness, they have the power to restore and uplift in ways we don't always see in the moment. But just as negative words can have a long-lasting impact, words of truth and kindness can have an even longer impact. So every word of hope, love, are a way of fighting against the lies, doubts, and attacks the enemy tries to plant within our hearts and within our minds. If we truly understand the weight of our words, then we won't hold back. We won't withhold these words of encouragement. We would actually be intentional about speaking words of encouragement because it's a way that we get to actively build up others, build up the kingdom, restore the brokenhearted, and remind people of who God says they are. God has never been careless with his words, and as his children, neither should we. From the very beginning, God spoke the world into existence. His words spoke all these beautiful and magnificent things into existence. His words have the power to create, shape, and bring life. And the thing is, we do too. We have this power with our words because we were made in his like image. We were made in the image of God, which means our words hold that same measure. Our words have the power to create, shape, build, and bring life. And so knowing this, I started thinking about in what ways is God calling us to use our words, because this is something that he has entrusted to us. This is a power, a responsibility that he has given us that oftentimes we find ourselves using it irresponsibly and not really holding the weight and the tension of this power and the importance of ensuring that we are using this power responsibly. When it comes to using our words the way God has called us to use them, we first have to understand that our words are a reflection of our hearts. What we say is a reflection of what is stored inside us. And if we are full of bitterness, insecurity, or pride, our words will naturally reflect that. But if we're rooted in God's truth, in love, and in grace, our words will also naturally reflect that. Our words will be ones that speak life, healing to those around us. When you think about it, no one likes to be around someone who is constantly complaining, that just never has anything good to say, that is pessimistic, because it really infects the entire room. It brings people down. That's just to show you that words have the ability to shift atmosphere. They have the ability to shift rooms. They have the ability to shift emotions. And so what is stored up inside us, what is in your heart, is going to be one that shifts an atmosphere to one of grace and peace and love and joy, or one that shifts an atmosphere to bitterness and anger and depression, one that makes the atmosphere feel heavy instead of light. And generally, that is why I think the enemy really targets our words, because he knows that our words have the power to shape destinies, break or build faith, and influence generations. If he can get us to speak doubt, fear, or lies over ourselves and others, he knows that it will plant seeds of destruction. Your words plant seeds. And so what kind of seeds are you planting within people's minds and hearts and within yourself with your words? Because when we align our speech with God's truth, we silence all the lies of the enemy. The next way that I really think God is calling us to use our words is using them wisely and purposefully. Ephesians 4:29, it tells us, do not let any unwholesome talk come from out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, so that it may benefit those who listen. Don't you hate when someone says something and it just had no use at all? Like, it was actually useless. It didn't help. They didn't present any good information to you, present anything that will be helpful or beneficial. And you're just like, what was the point of saying that? It benefited no one. And honestly, that's what we got to be thinking. Is what I'm saying right now going to be of any good benefit to anyone? If not, let me actually close up my mouth. Because our words are meant to be purposeful, not purposeless. We are not meant to just speak empty talk or gossip or just be careless with our words. So our words are meant to build up, restore, and bring clarity. Therefore, we got to be asking ourselves before we speak, does this bring life? Is this a reflection of God's love? Does this point people towards hope and truth? If not, do what James chapter 1 verse 19 says. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Which means if your words are not any of that, be slow to speak. Think before you respond. I know I'm guilty of this. I know so many of us are guilty of this, of speaking before thinking. Being quick to listen means we are actually taking time to truly hear others before reacting. So we're not coming from a reactionary place, but we're coming from a place where we are seeking to understand, right? Not prove a point. Being slow to anger with our words, it means that we are choosing grace over a reaction, even when we feel justified in lashing out. Because sometimes we do. We got some reason, but we're choosing to actually reason with our words and not just allow ourselves to be put in a position where we're going to have to apologize for our words later, but where we can actually stand by our words because we know that they spoke truth. I'm never going to apologize for my words if they spoke truth and love. I don't want to have to apologize for words that brought destruction and spoke death. When we choose to encourage instead of criticize, we are partnering with the Lord and bringing healing to people. We are able to speak truth instead of gossip or deceit. We are able to reflect Christ when we do these things. And every day we have a choice to speak life or death. Our words can either bless or curse the people around us, including ourselves. What you say is actually a choice. You have a choice in this. You know, sometimes people say, oh, it just slipped out. Did it really? Or is this just a display of your lack of control and lack of self-discipline when it comes to your words? And this isn't me coming for anyone because like I said, guys, I'm guilty of doing this too. If things are just slipping out over and over again, I need to go back to my prayer closet and seek the Lord for control over my tongue, for self-discipline. Okay, isn't that one of the fruits of the Spirit? Self-control. That's what I need to go back and start asking the Lord to help me produce within me, because I cannot just let things slip out, but be purposeful about what I say, because I have a choice in what I say. I want to do exactly what God has called me to do with my words, which is choose life and to use my words as a means of bringing light into the world rather than darkness. Because trust and believe, we have enough of that already in this world. I don't want to add to it with my words, but I actually want my words to break free from that and actually speak against all darkness and negativity and harm and hurt. Make a way for love and for peace and joy into people's lives and into my own life. Because our words carry so much weight, our words shouldn't be wasted. So Jesus is the ultimate example of speaking with purpose and love, and his words were never wasted. He always used his words to heal. He says, take heart, your faith has healed you. He used his words to restore. He said, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. He used his words to challenge. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. He used his word to encourage. Take heart. I have overcome the world. And if we're called to be like Christ, which we are, then we must be intentional with our words just as he was. Don't let another word you say be one that ends up wasted. We are stewards of our words. The power of life and death lies in our tongue. And this is a power, a responsibility that God has so graciously entrusted us with. It's why it's one of the First Amendment rights, freedom of speech. We have freedom with our words, which means we have a choice with how we use them and how we steward them. This is something that we should build faith, strengthen relationships, bring light into the darkest places, bring out the best in others and in ourselves, making it an intentional daily practice. Therefore, before we close out this episode, I want to invite you guys to make this commitment with me, a commitment to be cautious, not careless with our words. Maybe you have a history of speaking recklessly or using your words in a way that have hurt others or even yourself. Maybe you've been careless with gossip, criticism, negativity, or self-doubt. I know I have, or maybe you've been on the receiving end of careless words, carrying wounds from things that were spoken over you. But today, right now, you have a choice God has entrusted us with, the power of words, and how we use them is up to us. We don't have to repeat the patterns of the past. We don't have to let our tongues be weapons of destruction. Instead, we can choose to use our words as instruments of life, healing, and encouragement. So if you're ready, I invite you to say this with me wherever you are, whether out loud or in your heart. And even if you're not ready to make this commitment today, that's okay. But when you are, here it is. Lord, today I make the choice to be cautious, not careless, with my words. I acknowledge that my words have power, the power to build or break, to heal or to harm, to speak life or to speak death. Forgive me for the times I have used my words irresponsibly, for the times I have torn down instead of building up. From this moment forward, I commit to using my words wisely. I will be intentional in speaking life over myself and others. I will pause before I speak, choosing words that reflect your truth, your love, and your grace. Lord, let my words bring healing, encouragement, and hope. May my speech honor you and point others towards you. This is my commitment, a commitment to speak life, to build up, to reflect Christ in my word. Let this be a daily practice, a conscious decision to pause before I speak, to use my words for good, and to choose life over death, truth over lies, love over harm. I am cautious, not careless, because my words matter. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Still Learning. I hope this conversation served as a reminder that your words carry weight. They have the power to build, heal, and uplift, but also to harm if we're not careful. Learning to be intentional with what we say to others and to ourselves is a daily practice. But the good news is God gives us wisdom, grace, and the ability to choose life with our words. We may not always get it right, but we can always grow, learn, and do better. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend or someone who needs the encouragement. Let's hold each other accountable to be mindful of our words and to speak life wherever we go. And don't forget to follow @StillLearningPod on Instagram. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your takeaways, and continue these conversations with you. This is a space where we learn, grow, and walk this journey together. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review or rating. It helps others find the podcast and keep this community growing. And as always, let me know how I can make this space better, because I'm still learning too. Remember, your words matter, what you speak over yourself matters, and what it is now is not what it will always be or what it will become. Stay encouraged, stay rooted in truth, and I'll see you guys next time for another episode of Still Learning.